GPT-5 is out, so let's talk about some of the main changes mentioned in their livestream demo and system card. And as an AI researcher working on LLM reasoning, I will also try to give you my opinion on the current state of AI, where it's heading, and what are some promising research approaches that can get us closer to AGI. Alright, so the first change you'll notice is that ChatGPT simplified everything. Instead of seeing 7, 8, 9, 10 different models, we now see only two options, GPT-5 and GPT-5 Thinking. The main question is, how good GPT-5 is at choosing the right model for us. The way it works is that you still have a bunch of models under the hood, but OpenAI implemented a real-time router that quickly decides which model to use based on conversation type, complexity, tool needs, and explicit intent. For example, saying "think hard about this" in the prompt should, in theory, summon a stronger model. Okay, so I tried a bunch of prompts where I would expect higher reasoning, and it failed on the simplest questions, like this one. Here the GPT-5 router clearly used one of the weaker models because it essentially thinks 5.11 is greater than 5.9 and then outputs something weird. When it comes to math, it should always use a reasoning model and preferably also external tools because LLMs are just not designed to do complex math. Okay, so I tried the think hard about this approach, and indeed it got it right this time. So it was clearly a routing problem. And Sam Altman actually tweeted soon after the release that the auto switcher broke, making GPT-5 much worse. So I tried it the following day, and finally it got it right. Perfect. But then I thought, if think hard about this can tell the router to call a stronger model, what if I accidentally add a word that calls a weaker model? Let's say I'm in a hurry and I want a quick answer, so I add the word quickly at the beginning. And it got it wrong again. And the formatting is all weird. I'm sure this will all get fixed at some point and will get better, but I just don't like the lack of control and not knowing if a random word triggers the router in the wrong way. I feel like they want to create this unified intelligence system, and personally I'm okay with that as long as I can also turn it off and choose exactly what I want to use, because I see LLMs as tools. Nick Turley also mentioned that they plan to make it clearer which model is answering our queries, and that would be really great. Now let's talk about the coding capabilities. Coding is one of the main use cases of ChatGPT, and Sam Altman was hyping us before the release with tweets where he said that he tried GPT-5 and it was very good, and that he's not sure how he feels about it. So of course people got excited. But then in the livestream demo, they showed us many examples of what it can do, and they were all like, it can generate a game or a dashboard from a single concise prompt. And honestly, I don't get it. Do people actually use it like that? If you're a software developer, you will use AI for coding in a completely different way. Building a real product is nothing like this. And if you know nothing about coding and just want to vibe code, I think it would be much more interesting to actually give it not a concise prompt, but a very detailed prompt, full of requirements, constraints, and descriptions for what it should do, and then show that it can satisfy all requirements and resolve potential conflicts in the prompt. Maybe OpenAI wants to demonstrate how much GPT-5 can guess and infer from just a few sentences. But then look at Jumping Ball Runner, another game you can find on OpenAI's website. It's made from this simple prompt, and it's supposed to be colorful and enjoyable for everyone. You basically jump over obstacles by pressing the space bar, and it's quite hard, except you can just keep jumping and fly over the whole thing. That should be an obvious thing to avoid when generating such a game. Maybe I'm not the right user group for this, I don't know, but I just don't see much value in it. At least I don't feel like this tells me GPT-5 is now better at coding. Next, let's talk about the benchmarks. And no, I don't want to talk about the mistakes they made with charts, that happens. The thing is, in the live demo, they spent so much time showing us all their charts and evaluations, and they all can essentially be summarized as GPT-5 is better than O3 and 4.0. There is really not much more to learn from these numbers. GPT-5 is better at math, general science, coding, instruction following, multi-turn interactions, and it hallucinates less. But they don't really describe their evaluation setup, and some of these datasets are not publicly available. And of course, this has been a problem for a while, not just with OpenAI, but I think it's getting worse. We don't even see comparisons with no OpenAI models now, and I don't understand why, because it seems like GPT-5 is overall really good. For example, it just claimed the first rank on Chatbot Arena, so why not showing us proper comparisons with other models? When it comes to benchmarks and LLMs, one of the most important things to me are benchmarks on multilingual capabilities. After all, it's important that people all around the world can use LLMs. But OpenAI shows only one multilingual benchmark in their system card, where they took MMLU and translated its test set into 14 languages. It is 14 and not 13, they made a mistake here, and their conclusion is that it's generally on par with existing models. Okay, the thing is, even though the wording sounds like it's a newly translated dataset, they already used it for GPT 4.5. Look, this is straight from their previous system card. And actually, I think GPT-5 is noticeably better. I did the math and computed averages across all languages excluding English, and there is a solid 3.4 point improvement between GPT-5 main and GPT-4.0. Also, GPT-5 is 5 points better at Bengali and more than 4 points better at Hindi, Portuguese, and Yoruba. I think that's good, no? OpenAI, take the W. However, I still have a few concerns. The first one is that MMLU is just not the best dataset for testing multilingual capabilities. It's funny, I'm actually using MMLU right now for one of my other projects, and I can show you exactly what it looks like. The MMLU test set has about 14,000 multiple choice questions covering 57 subjects, and they look like this. Usually you have a short question and then a set of 4 answer options. Sometimes there are outliers with much longer questions, but usually it's just 1 or 2 sentences. So it's okay, but this is really more like a dataset for reasoning. Also, MMLU is about 5 years old, so it's likely that some of it leaked into the training data. And then it's very easy for the model to learn associations between the questions and answer letters A, B, C, D. And then testing it in a different language might not be as zero-shot as they claim. So again, it's okay, but there are better multilingual datasets like Flores 200, which is a multilingual benchmark originally created by Meta as part of the No Language Left Behind project. It covers over 200 languages and dialects. Or they could use Bella Bella, which is a reading comprehension dataset built from Flores 200. So overall, I think GPT-5 is a strong iterative improvement, but what I like most about it is that it completes the picture of where we are with AI. And the picture is, we're not heading toward AGI with the current paradigm. To better understand this, think about the past few years. We've been training on tens of trillions of tokens, more than we really need if you ask me. We've tried scaling up the models in terms of size, that worked really well up to maybe 1 trillion parameters, but then we hit a ceiling with GPT 4.5, which wasn't all that more impressive than 4.0 despite being many times larger. We've tried scaling up the inference with reasoning models and got some solid improvements from that, fair enough. But do reasoning models feel more like AGI? Not really. And looking at GPT-5, my impression is that they mostly focus on the last remaining thing, which is fine-tuning the model with SFT and reinforcement learning. And of course, if you construct some high-quality datasets for a specific domain, you will get better results in that domain. If you do more reinforcement learning on all the data OpenAI collected from people's conversations, you might get better results on Chatbot Arena. But I don't think more reinforcement learning will make models stop hallucinating, for example. And so we're now at this stage where we're doing small incremental improvements, adding features, tools, and that's all great. GPT-6, which will definitely come before GTA-6, will be even better, but I think the real way forward is to focus more on pre-training and novel architectures. I don't really believe that more reinforcement learning will get us closer to AGI, assuming that's the goal anyway. My personal take on this is that we need more grounded systems. I don't believe that using trillions of tokens is enough to fully understand the world, and the next token prediction has its own limitations. I'm actually pretty aligned with Jan LeCun's vision on building world models, but I must say I'm a bit biased because of some of my career decisions. I'm trying to be objective, but if you're interested, I recommend reading about large concept models, LCMs, and architectures like VJEPA. However, no matter what path we take, I think that open sourcing AI and sharing research will get us the most progress. I'm glad that OpenAI released GPT-OSS this week. It's not an open source release, but it's something. And hopefully we'll also see more open source works like Pythia, which is a truly open source LLM. If you're interested in the topic of open source, I've discussed all of this in my previous video on GPT-OSS. And if you watched my channel before, you know I also test LLMs on complex reasoning tasks like chess, mazes, and puzzles. And that's coming next. So if you want to get notified, please consider subscribing and giving the video a like. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.